Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been a varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Currently, my daughter and I are coaching one of the best AAU teams in the country. Well, Piston fans, we're going to talk about Ausar Thompson soaring above all the players in the summer league. We're going to talk about why the Pistons overpaid Isaiah Stewart in his contract extension. We're also going to do a breakdown of some of the other players on the Pistons squad during the summer league. So let's first shout out to the Michigan Mystics 2026 team that my daughter and I coach. They were sensational this week down in Louisville, Kentucky. They played against the top competition in the nation, and I'm not sure what we were. If we were 8-2, we lost the game by 3, and we lost the game in triple overtime. And the kids made a lot of great plays. We won a game in double overtime. We won another game in single overtime. But the very gifted team. One of our players was offered a scholarship by Iowa after the tournament, and Iowa was runner-up in the national tournament this past year. You know, they are the one team that has Caitlin Clark. She's been offered by other teams too. She's 6'5", and she's very gifted. But anyway, let's talk about Ausar. He is certainly gifted, and he just shows so much in the summer league. I'm so excited to have him on my team. He still hasn't shown that he can shoot. He shot 45% during the summer league in 3 games, and most of them were dunks. But he did make a 3 yesterday against Toronto at the buzzer at the end of the first quarter that looked good. And so anyway, he's averaged 12 points, 8.7 rebounds, 2.3 blocks, and 2.7 steals, which are just phenomenal. So, you know, teams need guys that don't just score. There's only so many shots to go around. I talk about this all the time. There's only so many points, you know, you got to spread out your scoring out. But there's always a need for guys who coaches always say you want somebody, your players, your role players to star in their role. Well, I think that Ausar Thompson is going to be a superstar in his role. And he is just, he came out against Toronto and he blocked Grady Dick's shot right off the bat, and he gets 2 steals within the first minute. Like, he is just so active, so athletic. He's got great instincts. So there's guys that are great athletes that don't have great instincts. And then he also has tremendous desire. Again, I still, it's a little bit worrisome. He has such desire and he is such a hard worker. And so for him not to have a shot developed yet is a little bit concerned, but I don't think his shot looks that bad. So I think that he's going to hopefully develop that shot. But even if he doesn't become an elite shooter, I think that all the things that he brings to a team defensively are elite. And his ball handling and passing and his ability to push the ball. And I really am impressed with his rebounding. He goes up in traffic. He averaged, like I said, almost 9 rebounds a game. And he can get up in a crowd, and he is a specimen. He is well-built young man, and he can get up, and he has the 7-foot wingspan. So I think that with Cade rebounds great for his position. Ivey had lots of games where he rebounded really well for his position, and Duren certainly rebounds well for his position. And so we can put those 4 guys out there, even with Bojan, who doesn't rebound good for his position, and we're still going to be fine on the boards. So I think that he did that reverse dunk in transition on an alley-oop, and he blocked a 7-footer shot. Went right up the ladder on that guy, and he got him right at the peak. And, you know, he just has that ability. He plays great help side defense. He anticipates so well and gets there fast. And so I just think that he is going to be a superstar in his role. I compared him to Scottie Pippen. So Scottie Pippen is voted one of the 75 best players in NBA history in the 75 years that the NBA has existed. And he averaged 16 points a game. So the comparisons are there, and I think it's going to do that. You know, going to be a hugely impactful player, and even on a championship team, even if he doesn't score a ton of points, because I guarantee you most of those 75 players that were picked on the all-time NBA team scored way more than 16 points. I'm sure far majority of them probably averaged 20 a game. So I think that he is just going to be a huge benefit to our team, and I think that teams need players that do other things. Everybody can't score. You don't win. The team with the best five scorers does not win championships. The team with the best team wins, and having the best team means you need to have guys that can do other things at a high level. And again, it's not just that a scorer can rebound; he does it at a high level for a three. He's a great passer, not just a good passer. I love watching him. When I see what a player's about and analyze players, I watch how do they get back on defense. He just runs by everybody. He's so fast, but also the effort's there. There's guys. I used to watch Chris Webber, and he just, made it down the court really slow. He didn't push himself to get back on defense a lot of times. And so anyway, I just think that he needs to get that shot better. I think his form looks somewhat promising. I did see him one of the games. He shot like a 15-footer, and he shot it like 2 feet short. He shot air ball. So there is certainly concerns, and if it gets in his head like with Ben Simmons. But I do know the other thing. This team is going to be so much fun to watch with Ivey and Duren and Cade and Ausar on the fast break. There's going to be some spectacular plays, and I think you're just going to love watching them play. So it was funny at some point in the game against Toronto, there was a little confrontation between Ausar and another player, and he kind of flipped the ball back at the other player, and the other player flipped it back at him, and Ausar flips it back at him again, and then the referee gives them a double technical for both players. But it was cool. They showed the sidelines, and Isaiah Stewart was just cracking up laughing at what was going on in the court. But anyway, we're going to talk about Beef Stew, and everybody loves him because he's unselfish, he busts his butt, and everybody knows he's Troy's favorite. And so, but we paid him potentially $16 million a year for 4 years, so $64 million for 4 years, and he gets $50 million a year. With incentives, there's for $1 million each year in incentives. I don't know exactly what those are. But the last year, the fourth year on the contract is team controlled. So the team, we don't have it's a team option for the fourth year. So, and the contract does not start until next year. It doesn't. Not this upcoming year. It's the following year where the contract kicks in. And everybody knows the TV contract's going to go up by a lot, that they're going to sign a huge TV contract. So then the pool that the players get their money from is going to really go up. And so probably they're expecting 10% every year. So his contract, even though it's this high, is going to seem like less than. But my contention still is we're giving this guy who averaged 11 points and 8 rebounds and shot 32% on threes. We're banking on him shooting threes, and we're giving him $16 million a year, and we don't even have to do it because we could let him play out this upcoming year. Then he's a restricted free agent, and my guess is that in restricted free agency, even if he shoots 35-36% on threes, that nobody's going to offer him $16 million a year. I could be wrong, but I don't hate him. I love him, and I think any coach, again, as a coach, he's the kind of guy coaches love because he's going to bust his butt every day in practice. He's going to work hard in the off season, and he doesn't back down for anybody, and he goes after it every single minute of every single game. And I think he's a great teammate, and so I see all those positive things about him, but it's just that we didn't have to pay him that much money. But so here's the thing. Here's why we overpaid him. Well, like I said, Troy Weaver and some other, James Edwards III, I know he loves him. I listen to his podcast, I read his articles, and he's his favorite player, and he's Troy's favorite player. And it's been long speculated that everybody knew that he was going to get this extension, but I think that $12 million a year would have been real reasonable. So everybody's mad because we gave Bagley $12 million a year. Everybody hates it. And then I do agree that we shouldn't have. The third year on Bagley's deal should have been a team option, but Troy loved Bagley at that time. So now the thing is, Troy gets all these post players, and he loves them all, and I think they're not bad gambles. But then now we got one too many, kind of, I think. And so Duren, not Duren, Wiseman, his So he's going to be a restricted free agent at the end of next year. So we're not giving him an extension. We're going to play out the year, which is Wiseman, to see how he does before we give him any money, and to see, and then if somebody wants him and they want to pay more than we do want to pay him, then we don't have to match their offer. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I just know that the reasons, everybody said that Stewart, the Celtics called about him. There's teams in around the NBA that are interested in him. Oh, we got to hurry up and pay him all this money, and we didn't, because we can match any offer at the end of next year. And so what if somebody? The Boston Celtics are not going to pay him $60 million a year. So they wanted him because he's gritty and he's tough, and he would be a great player coming off your bench. I do see, when we are good, I think that he could be a Corliss Williamson coming off the bench, and being a valuable asset. I mean, he's not Corliss. Corliss was a scorer more, and Beef Stew is a great defender, but he can't jump. So again, we want to pay him like this great player, but he's not athletic. He can't hardly get up over the rim. I mean, if he gets a running start, he does, but he can't score inside. His percentage at the rim was mediocre for a big guy, and he had ups and downs with his 3-point shot. But he ended up 32%, so that's what he shot, 32%. You can say he had a great stretch, which he did, and then he shot 11% for a month. He couldn't even buy one. It was just terrible. But then and then he hurt his shoulder, so everybody uses that as his excuse for shooting so bad. But before we shut him down, the last 4 games he played, he shot like 50% on threes. So who knows? But if you want to do incentives, here's what my incentives would be. If he shoots 37 or more, give him $15 million a year. If he shoots 35% or more on threes, give him $12 million a year. If he shoots 32, give him $9 million still. But until he proves that, because that is the big skill that's going to make the difference and how valuable he is for our team. Because otherwise you got to play him at center, and we have 3 centers that can score at the rim and are lob threats, and he's not. So he does switch out on defense better than any of those other guys, for sure. But I just know that Troy loves him. Troy was friends, had a great relationship with his college coach, and we traded a first-round pick to Houston to get the draft rights for that position to draft him. We're handcuffed. We've been handcuffed since we made that trade. We cannot trade a first-round draft pick until that trade, which has good protections, and thank God it does, because we could have missed out on some great draft picks. But until that pick conveys, we cannot trade a first-round draft pick. Maybe now we can trade like a 2030 or something. I don't know, maybe after this year. But anyway, it was, he's not athletic. So his ceiling, how great can he be? He's going to be a good help defender. He showed flashes of driving to the basket a little bit, not consistent. He didn't do it that many times, but he's not going to get touches on this team. He's not going to be a go-to scorer. He needs to just be a guy that spreads the floor, but he has to show he can shoot the 3. So I just think he's limited. He's limited at how good he can be, and so I guess he should be limited how much money he can make, even though, like I said, everything about who he is, I love. So we'll see what happens with him, and I hope for the best. Beef Stew, I hope you shoot 40% on threes. I hope then you can be our starting 4, and then you can switch out on defense and do all those things that you do, and that you can get better at putting the ball on the floor and show that. But you haven't yet. So anyway, that's just my take. I mean, fans, we all have opinions. And I know that a lot of people's opinions are different than mine. But anyway, Cade's extension is going to be due at the end of this next year. He's going to be eligible, not due, but he's going to be eligible. So it's going to be fascinating. He's really only played 1 year out of the last 2 if you combine all of his games. And I think he's going to be worth the max, the rookie max extension. And that's like $260 million. So that's a lot of money. And if he gets hurt again this year, or say he shows, like he's kind of going to be really great, but we're not sure, then that's going to be hard to sign him to that. I have a lot of confidence. I think Cade is going to be one of my all-time favorite Pistons. I love who he is, how he acts, and how he plays. And he has to shoot the three, too. He has to be better at shooting the three. Otherwise, he's not a max, doesn't deserve a max rookie extension. So it's just going to be interesting what happens. I do think that Greg Popovich needs to thank Monty Williams for the big contract extension he got. So Pop just signed a new contract, making like $16 million a year, because Monty Williams got a contract for like 12 or 13 million a year. And so the Spurs, since Popovich has been, one of the greatest 2 or 3 coaches of all time for sure, that he should be the highest paid. So they made him the highest paid. And again, he should thank Monty a little bit for that. So it's cool to see him at the Summer League. Livers, Bagley, Ivey, Stu, and Wiseman are all there. They're practicing, so it's a huge start. These young guys, they're hanging out, they're building camaraderie, but they're practicing. They're getting to know Monty and his system. Jarrett Jack's coaching the team, but Monty's there watching. Monty's there talking, and so it's really cool to see. And I think that it's gonna give us a jump start going into next year. So some people freaked out. Ivey had a terrible first game, or not that good, but he was. There was no floor spacing on the court. He was trying to go he was so hyped up. He was going 100 miles an hour. I heard him interviewed after the game, and you could tell he's a competitor. He has high expectations for himself. Everybody regards him as like the hardest worker, and he couldn't wait to get back the next game. He would have wanted to play that next minute after that game, because he was disappointed in how he played. In the next game, he scored 20 points, had 10 assists, which phenomenal, and he shot like 9 for 15, which is outstanding. And he was the same awesome Jaden Ivey that we watched the last 30 games or whatever of this past season. So Duren, some people get upset because Duren's putting the ball on the floor and he's shooting jumpers, but I'm going to tell you, Duren is not Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard was this big, strong guy, just like Duren, but Dwight Howard didn't have the feel for the game. He couldn't throw the passes that Duren's even shown as a rookie. And I just think there's so much there. He is gifted. We haven't even got to see the gifts, but he put the ball on the floor. He led the break. He got a rebound and dribbled the ball up the court a few times and passed the ball. And he's thrown some great passes in half court. So again, he's made some jumpers, which last year he just basically dunked or shot shots right at the rim. He shot a 3 and made it, and I just think that he's the sky's the limit. It might not happen right now, but again, we don't need all these players to be all these things. We need people to fit a role, and he needs to be better at protecting the rim. He needs to react better. He needs to anticipate better, because he can jump so high and he's so athletic that he can block some shots, because we need some better rim protection. And I think he's still 19, so he still can get better at that. But his offensive rebounding, per minute played, I'm sure he was probably the first or second in the NBA in offensive rebounds this past year. So I think that that's priceless. Offensive rebounding is one of the, you don't have to get a shot. You're not getting a shot. You're getting a missed shot that somebody else shot, and you're scoring for your team at a really high percentage. So I think that Duren is going to be just amazing, and he's just the sky's the limit. So, excuse me, Wiseman. People hate him. Most people in Piston, I don't know, hate might be a strong word, but some people do. But people do not like him. And the truth is, what he's shown is he's played with his chip on his shoulder. He's like posts up every time, and he wants to just ram the ball down everybody's throat and score every time. And so he's played selfish. So he doesn't look to pass. He can score. He is gifted at it. He can take the ball and put it right down people's throat. But when people collapse on him, he needs to kick it. He did show one. He made one great pass, I think, in the first summer league game to Duren from the high post. And so there's flash. That was, it's possibly going to be there. But I think that's why people don't like him. They also, the same thing with Bagley. Both of them were considered busts, so they both had a bad, rap coming into things to the Pistons. They were considered big disappointments. They both aren't great on defense. They don't react very well on defensively, and so that's, but Wiseman, he had to play with the Warriors. So Kuminga is good and Moody's good, but they didn't get to play either because the Warriors are trying to win a championship, so they just didn't get chances. And then players can lose confidence and things, whatever. But I think that it's up to the coaching staff. So people are complaining about the summer league. Oh, Wiseman's just posting up. He needs to set picks, run pick and roll, pick away. But the coaches need to make him do that. I mean, they need to say, this is what you got to do, dude. And, and so if you're going to criticize him for that, part of the blame goes with the coaches. Same thing during the season. If you want to just blame him, the coaching staff, they can say, well, if you're not going to do that, you don't get to play. And it was cool hearing Ausar saying, they asked him about all the stuff that he does. He said, I don't want to come off the court. So I love that he loves basketball so much. But so Wiseman, I still think he has potential. I think he's got a year to show it. And I guess this isn't our year. I think we're going to win a lot more games, 15 more games I'm predicting still. But I don't think that we know right now how good he's going to be. But also, we don't like him. We don't like Bagley. But guess what? We're not the ones that run the organization. Troy likes Wiseman, and Troy likes Bagley. And I still don't think I can't see how they can play Bagley, Duren, Wiseman, and Stu. There's not enough minutes, so somebody's going to be the odd man out, whether we make a trade. And again, I always contend, everybody says, oh yeah, trade Bagley, but you got to find somebody that wants to trade him. He's been injured a lot, but I think he could be a valuable asset coming off the bench, scoring the ball, because he's really good at that. And he can't be stopped, and he shoots a high percentage. This past year, he rebounded really well. But anyway, so Wiseman, he did good in Summer League. Him and Duren dominated the boards, and they both scored at a real high, efficient rate. And so that was good to see. Marcus Sasser has struggled so far. He hasn't really shown what we want to see from him yet. There's a concern. He wanted to really impress people because we got with Monty Morris and Burks and our guard rotation. It's going to be hard for him to get minutes, but maybe there'll be a point. Maybe somebody will get injured. Maybe he'll turn things around. Maybe he'll have a great training camp. But I know he has the potential to be a great, great defender and an elite three-point shooter. So there's always a spot for that. If you can do that, that would be great. So Troy, Monty Williams, he's famous for making these Monty quotes, they say. And one of the ones I've heard recently was, everything you want is on the other side of hard. And that's what the Pistons, I think we have that attitude. I think we got great leadership with Cade. I think Monty has a great staff. And I think that we have Beef Stew, who's got a great attitude and work ethic that I think is going to wear off on other people. And I just think that we are going to work hard. Our team's going to work hard. I'm not sold that we're going to be still a great defensive team. I we've hired that great assistant coach that I think is going to make our defense way better. So, but anyway, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a 5-star review. If you're listening on YouTube, please subscribe. I need more subscribers, and I have like over 1,000 listeners, but I still only have, out of all the episodes I've done like 60 episodes, and I don't have that, I don't have 500 subscribers yet. So please do that. Tell a friend about the podcast. We have John Beeline coming up, maybe in the next episode, within the next week, I expect to have John Beeline on. We have to get some things still ironed out, but do something nice for somebody today, and go Pistons.